I think I have perfect pitch.
Okay, give me a sample.
Like, what do you want?
I want you to sing a scale.
What scale?
Yeah, I want you to sing an E minor.
La 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 la.
That sounds fucking horrible.
See, I know that because I have perfect pitch. That's what perfect, like, I can recognize good sounds. And I knew that they were all off.
Yeah, you think that's what that means?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Dancing with the devil, hands tango on the bezel. 40 shekels for the jackal at the castle, acting as his vassal. Doom said it best on accordion. Another gory story only told by hood historians. Replaced by a knave, clocking petty. Wait, everyday shit, who gives a fuck? I got some bills to pay. Matter of fact, gonna get a grip. Little ollie twist and flip your way up out the sticks. Before you busted with a brick. Other side of the train.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Course, the only podcast that has ever or will ever name drop Pitch Perfect. My name is Ian Redford.
I'm Chad Smith, a real pitcher's pitcher. A real top's top. I only top tops.
That sounds very niche and hard to find.
Yeah, it's hell, man. I gotta get on double list every day, just looking for stuff. I guess it bears repeating that this is not a political podcast. I've said it many times, and I will continue to say it until you people understand it. This is a baseball history podcast. Go Dodgers.
Go
Never
Dodgers.
been to California, but for some reason, I just really like those Dodgers. Go Dodgers. They won something. I don't know. Recently, right? The World Series or something. I don't know. Somebody from LA was posting about it, so I immediately made that my personality. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I believe we're going to start things off with a new segment.
New segment. Yeah. Let's fucking bring it in. So I had mixologist Owen help us with this. This is This Course podcast hour. He made us mason jars to go because he said, and I quote, "Yeah, man, like I just couldn't do it. Like I had to go across town. You know, I had to go to Southwest, and then I had to go up to Pinnacle Mountain, and then like, you know, you guys just weren't there." And I'm like, I straight up on the phone, I told him like, the Little Italy studio is directly in that path. I live near Southwest Little Rock, and Pinnacle Mountains where the Little Italy studio is near. So like, you could have gone, but I don't know. I have my suspicions he might be like a drug dealer or something. But he is a hell of a mixologist. And if you guys didn't know, Anthony Blinken, Mr. Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State of the United States of America, he just came out with a new cookbook called Natural Harvest. It's sort of a farm to table style thing, and there's a drink section in there. So this is called an almost white Russian. So let's take a drink.
Wait, almost white Russian?
Almost
so it's
white
like
Russian.
Kind of white passing Russian?
Yeah, I mean, if you could look at the color of it, it's kind of brownish.
Okay.
So what do we think?
Oh, man. So
I made this with almond milk. I did take a deviation from the recipe to make this more like vegan friendly. But
by the way, I don't know if you mentioned this, but the name of this segment is called Cocktail Hour. And it's a whole 5 minutes of us talking about cocktails for
not an hour. So what does it taste like? What do you think?
Honestly,
Put a little honey in there too, so because I use unsweetened almond milk in place of regular milk.
Did you follow the Secretary of the House's recipe exactly?
Secretary of State, yeah. Well, not exactly, because instead of milk, I used almond milk, and I used unsweetened almond milk, so I hit it with some honey.
So it tastes like a white Russian with like too much vodka. Basically.
Yeah, I follow the ratio exactly.
That guy's a boozer.
So, yeah, fucking
That guy likes his drinks.
yeah. So I'll just kind of vamp a little bit here while we drink this down, because I mean, it's not good. I mean, the fucking Secretary of State made this, so you can tell there's all kind of satanic kind of stuff going on here. I mean, there's definitely like a ritualized aspect to the making of this cocktail.
Like,
I imagine
there's definitely like a pedophilia undertone to it, you know.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't know if Anthony Blinken is a pedophile. I don't.
Well,
I
he's
think,
a U.S. politician.
well, yeah, but he hasn't been on the Epstein flight logs, so I think that's sort of where the convention,
where the bar is.
Well, yeah, that's where they all go.
Okay.
That's like kind of the who's who of pedophiles, but yeah, it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. It could use some sriracha, I think.
If only I knew enough about his policies to make a pun about how it could use some more
If only.
Like this could use a hint of foreign character.
Really, what this should be called is a white American.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and this was made, of course, with all local home ingredients, which is sort of, I guess, the point of Natural Harvest. The cookbook is, he kind of goes on to, like, a lot of the flavor text, no pun intended. He kind of Wayne's philosophical wax. I should say Wayne's because it's Wayne's World, and this is excellent for him, I think. Not for me, though. We're not having a party time with this cocktail.
That was a fun
because it's a milk-based cocktail, really.
Yeah,
that's not party food.
No,
I'm
also wildly lactose intolerant, so this might kill me.
Well, that's why I made it with almond milk.
Damn. All right.
Yeah, he was hoping it would kill him. So let's just read the dedication while we drink this down. It reads, "To my enthusiastic friends who have encouraged me to finalize this cookbook, thank you for your support and patience. Special thanks to all of you who helped me with the recipes and taste tests. You know who you are." So,
I bet one of those people is Epstein.
There's a good chance, but we've seen no evidence for it. And unlike most conspiratorial dumbasses, I hinge a lot of my decisions and beliefs on evidence.
All right.
Now whether that evidence is sound, I don't know. So let's just get into the introduction here, because like I said, a lot of this flavor text kind of Wayne's philosophical, because it's kind of on the low end of the philosophy.
Like, I feel like if I kill this, it's gonna get me lit. Like, how much alcohol is in each one of these?
So we'll get into the recipe here in a second, but I'll just let you know it's 2 parts vodka. So I did 2 shots vodka, 1 shot coffee liqueur.
Okay.
Which is sort of a classic White Russian recipe, and then you dilute with milk. But there's the thing about Natural Harvest, from what I can tell from reading this, is that it's a cookbook that seeks to sort of bridge the gap between, it's like it could be, I guess you could accurately describe it as just one blip in the universe of the slow food movement, right?
Farm to table, like farm to trash can,
or slow food as in a slow jack. Like when nobody's around, you cut the fucking AC down to 68 degrees, your nips are getting hard,
Jesus,
and you're doing a slow jack. It's just you, what's up in your head, no aids, no assistance. It's just you having you time. So let's go ahead and read this introduction here. We humans are truly omnivores. We'll eat just about anything as long as something edible either tastes good, makes us feel good, provides energy, nutrition, or adds a pleasurable texture. We find ways to eat it. Anyone who has traveled abroad knows that foods we might find strange or unpleasant may be considered delicacies in other countries. Rotten fish is a national dish in Sweden, while Australians spread concentrated yeast extract on their breakfast toast. The British love their blood sausage, and guinea pigs are roasted for dinner in Peru. Like you would imagine, the Secretary of State, he's taking a very international perspective on this.
Yeah, he's also just throwing like a mild shade of racism in there.
Yeah, he's like saying, "Wow, it's kind of weird how all these." Well, you can't really be racist to the British because they're not really people, but. Sorry to all the British listeners.
Sorry,
listen, if you're Scottish,
that one got me.
That's chill, bro. Like if you're Irish, that's cool too. Welsh, if you're Cornish, Isle of Man, that's cool. Anglos, though, I'm so sorry. I hate to be like this, but you're subhuman. So
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Anyway, sorry, dude. I'm part native, bro. I'm indigenous. I'm fucking from here. We hate the Anglos.
Honestly, this is growing on me. Like the more I drink it, the more I think, like, man, Newt Gingrich can really make a cocktail.
Newt Gingrich. Yeah, fucking Gingham fabric. That guy. He's fucking weird. So let's just continue with this introduction here. All the while, Americans. So let it be known, he's targeting his own, because it really do be your own who sell you out like that. And Europeans.
He's targeting his own?
Yeah, well, he's saying all the while Americans and Europeans consume vast amounts of milk.
Okay.
Heyo,
I
White
see.
Russian.
All right, yeah.
Of course, we're not actually drinking milk. We're drinking almond milk and other dairy products that consist of mammary secretions from cows. So he's setting it up to be
Gross.
for his thing to be like, yeah. Compared to semen, milk might be considered positively disgusting.
Wait, what?
I don't know why he said that.
That's in there?
Yeah, he said that. So,
Okay.
semen is not only nutritious, but also has a palatable texture and a wonderful cooking properties.
Which has nothing to do with this cocktail, but go on.
Like fine wine and cheeses, the taste of semen is complex and dynamic.
Is this in there?
Yeah, this is Natural Harvest, man. Semen producers can generate a wide range of semen taste simply by making minor dietary adjustments. Semen is inexpensive to produce. Why is it going on so long about this?
I mean, it can be expensive.
Semen
to
is
produce.
inexpensive to produce and is commonly available to many, if not most, homes and restaurants. Well, I wouldn't serve that in a restaurant personally because I think the HCAAC, what is it?
HVAC.
No. The inspection plan for like restaurants and shit.
NAACP.
Wrong. Well, no, wrong. Despite all these positive qualities, semen remains neglected as food. This book hopes to change that. What the fuck? Oh no.
What?
Hold on. Where's my phone? I gotta talk to mixologist Owen because
Did he jizz in these drinks? Is that what? Okay.
Oh fuck!
Is
I'm
that
tasting something. Oh, hold on.
Is that okay?
Oh fuck! Did we just? Hold on. Let me smell this. I'm not tasting anything, honestly. I don't know. Okay, so anyway.
What did you make me drink?
I don't know what you're talking about. We'll just continue. So once you overcome any initial hesitation, you will be surprised to learn how wonderful semen is in the kitchen. Semen is an exciting ingredient that can give every dish you make an interesting...
So I'm starting to think that you use a combination of almond milk and honey to emulate semen.
You, like us, are a passionate cook. Oh, God. Oh, God, I'm gonna be sick. What the fuck? Oh, I'm not afraid to experiment with new ingredients. You'll love this cookbook.
Oh, God.
Okay, so
Natural
there's
Harvest.
There's literally no way, right, that the drink section could have semen in it.
Just when I thought Ted Cruz couldn't get any grosser.
What did he do?
He wrote this fucking cookbook, dude.
Oh, did he? Oh, yes. Yeah, fucking, Blinky.
Yeah.
He's got his Blinky in. Is that a butt plug or, I don't know, shit.
I don't know, dude.
Okay, let's just read the next section. Semen as, oh, fuck! We're drinking it! Semen as an exciting personal touch to your favorite cocktail. Fuck! Semen and alcohol are great combination. Nobody says that! Because alcohol really enhances the delicate semen flavors. Semen is easily added to any beverage that uses milk or creams. Oh my God. All of these high protein smoothie, almost White Russian, strawberry splash. Well, that one doesn't sound too bad. Strawberry splasherito.
I mean, it's probably got cum in it.
Where's the splash? Oh, oh no! Irish coffee with. This is fucking indulgent.
Okay.
Extra cream. Irish coffee with extra cream.
All right.
Cappuccino de semi.
That's pretty good.
This is fucked up.
That's so funny.
Is so fucked up. Are we really drinking this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll just read the fucking.
You better not have come in my cup.
Come in my cup. Okay, so this is the recipe that I followed.
God.
With mixologist.
I'm still
Owen.
drinking it.
It's pretty tasty.
It's not bad.
Almost White Russian. This cocktail was revitalized by a dude in the film The Big Lebowski.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think he came in it, though.
2 ounces vodka, 1 ounce coffee liqueur, cream or milk, ice cubes, 1/2 ounce semen.
Okay.
Pour vodka, semen, coffee liqueur over ice cubes, and top up the glass with milk or cream.
Top.
Jesus, dude.
All right.
You know, like as a top, I'm not used to this. I don't usually.
Oh boy.
It's still pretty good. I mean, honestly, it's pretty good.
I mean, I've read those cum cookbooks before. Like they're not, they don't seem backwards. Like some of them have some pretty good
Yeah,
ideas.
but it's really weird that Anthony Blinken
I know, right?
came out with one. Anyway, I don't know.
Everybody's got a bucket list.
Can we... What is the bucket holding? Press the fart button. We have a fart button for a reason. God damn it. The coffee really covers it up, but it kind of adds something to it, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, you ever like have your partner jizz in your coffee in the morning? You know, very similar effect.
Well, I've never dated a man. I only fuck men.
Oh, okay. So you're a fake gay.
You've never dated a man. You're faker gay than I am.
Well, I just have to give you your own medicine. All right, moving on. I think that's all the time we have to talk about cum and cups.
I can't believe we just drank cum. It's kind of hot. Like,
I mean,
anyway, but okay. I just want to say this is not a horny podcast.
I'm gonna just discuss this later with my partner and my therapist
and your therapist
at the same time. Anyway,
okay.
So
that's the semen caught in his throat.
So some interesting shit has gone down in the news recently. Some stuff that we basically can't avoid talking about.
Yeah, fucking Afghanistan is on fire, man.
So what happened?
Woo! That's a big one. It's a lot of shit that happened. Really, it is. It's a lot of shit that happened. But from my understanding, the United States basically decided that they were going to pull out of Afghanistan, which, I mean, so many people have been begging for, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's just like,
which I'm sure they should be doing that with every country they're currently occupying.
Absolutely. This is my personal take. This is the Chad Smith stamp of approval. We should be pulling out of every country that we are at war with. That is a given. I don't know if my co-host agrees with that. I don't know if the audience agrees with that, but regardless of the impact, there should be an immediate withdrawal.
It's a Band-Aid that needs to be ripped off.
Yeah. The immediate withdrawal of U.S. forces, the limiting of SOUTHCOM, for example, but also all international U.S. military command centers, limiting their impact across the entire world should be enacted immediately. Regardless of what happens, regardless of how it goes,
like it's a thing.
It should happen.
It's a bridge we should cross, and we can fix it while we're on it. You know what I mean? Like, if issues arise from withdrawal, we can address those issues as they come along.
I wouldn't be so quick to say that. I wouldn't be so quick to say we can address them because we've been addressing them.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
That's why we're still in these places.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the cadence that liberals usually bring up.
All I mean is that we can minimize the damage done as we withdraw. Hopefully. And that would be the intent.
Right, but then you pose an intractable situation where you keep, like we've seen with Afghanistan, This is a great example of the thing you're advocating for not going right. It has been the constant refrain, the chorus, so to speak, of U.S. foreign policy to say, we're not ready yet. We're not ready yet. We need to train these people that are in this country that we're essentially occupying. We need to train them to run their own security, have their own military on the side of democracy, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what external forces or opposing forces are knocking on the door, we have to leave in our wake a stable read, if you're smart enough to, read U.S. Allied forces or people who are friendly to the U.S., that's usually the liberal refrain, right? That's so progressives usually push the left of center Democrats to get ourselves out of these. And when I say ourselves, I'm speaking from a place of
imperialism.
Well, no, I'm just saying the U.S. I don't necessarily align myself with the U.S. I live here, but my ancestors have been here before the people that came here. So
basically, the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan. Did they do anything specific on their way out?
No, they didn't. And that's a big subject, a big hinge point about this debate and about this chaos that's so ensued. Just like many times before, anytime the U.S. pulls out unexpectedly, they leave behind men and material.
It just has to be cleaned up by the locals.
Exactly, but on the flip side of that, you also get things like support helicopters, armored transport carriers, right? We take the tanks out. I say we again, harken back to what I just said.
Yeah.
The United States pulls out the big guns, the stuff that costs millions, billions of dollars to produce, the fighter jets, the bombers, the crazy missile systems, all these different things, but they leave the guns, right? Because it's too expensive to ship back. They leave the arms, the ammunition,
Oh wow,
the rockets.
that seems
Yeah, but they
cool.
do that. But they do that on purpose a lot of times.
weird.
They do that both the United States military does that both inadvertently and
Is that like a
also
show
intentionally.
Is that like a show of good faith to the locals? Like, hey, here's something, you know?
I don't. I wouldn't.
Here's something
I
valuable.
can't begin to
surmise the intentions.
explain or assume that I know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But what I imagine is that it's a combination of panicky following orders, but also keeping your foot in the door, right? Because the United States has a history of providing arms in various ways.
So you're implying that it's just a subtle way to like ensure instability.
Maybe, but also a way to build good faith with the opposing force that at one point, by the way, in Afghanistan specifically, was on your side at some point.
Okay.
Right? So I will say this. I do believe that it is super fucking wrong and inaccurate to assume that the United States involvement with Afghanistan when they were supporting the Mujahideen, that they directly created the Taliban, because after all, it was only two factions of the Mujahideen that eventually would form the new generation of the Taliban, right? Whereas so many other parts of it just sort of fell away, and they fought each other after the U.S. pulled out for the first time, and eventually ended up us, you know.
So wait, when did the U.S. pull out the first time?
So let's go back to the beginning. The USSR invited the Afghanistan Republic, which was nominally communist, invited the Khrushchevite Soviet Union forces to come and basically solve the problem diplomatically. And when that didn't happen, it turned to military force. And when that didn't work out well, the Soviet Union sort of fell away and said, well, we're not going to deal with this anymore. But the United States all the time was funding this, doing sort of the same thing. They would establish bases in friendly territories and then leave, and then drop weapons and support. Right, so it's an intractable situation that's basically cost us $800 billion, has taken 20 years, maybe even longer. So this was happening, but in the void of the United States military forces evacuating in the first place, for the first time, they basically left this sort of void where the United States could come in and were already supporting people, like, you know, the famous meme, like the thing that we like see as, like, a lot of people see as funny on the left wing, which the right wing people are having a field day with this as well now.
I'm sure.
But you know, the like Stallone having that movie. I can't remember what movie it
Rocky?
was. No, it wasn't Rocky. It was like at the end. There's like, this is dedicated to the brave Mujahideen fighters.
Whoa, what was that?
Yeah. I don't. Well, this is sort of on the fly, but let's find out real quick. Let's find out. This.
All right, Jamie, who is also Chad.
Yeah, we have
Pull up that
Grant
movie.
here. Who's this guy? That's
He's the guy on the couch. TM. He's just hanging out, sleeping. That's what he does.
he's just some guy.
This is the guy on the
Well,
couch.
we'll get into this later, but
Yeah.
he's just some guy.
By the way, our studio audience today, which we do have one, is mostly just consisting of the guy on the couch. That's who we got right now.
Yeah, he's clapping right now. We have filtered. Oh yeah, it was Rambo 3. You're right. Did you say Rambo?
I said Rocky.
Rocky was ours. It's the ours. Yeah, Sylvester Stallone, right? Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Or is it Sylvester the cat? Did he?
Yeah, it was totally both of them.
Richard Crenna. Is that John Cena? I don't know, dude. I have like weird. I'm like, am I autistic? I don't know. Who knows?
You know, you're artistic. So,
how's your cum cocktail, bud?
it's honestly treating me pretty all right.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
So who jizzed in it?
I assume it's mixologist Owen. He may have. He told me he followed the recipe to the. What did he say? To the J. Which is weird because I didn't think about it. He said to the J, and I was like,
because he jacked
"The
off.
fuck does that mean?" Or jizzed off.
Okay, yeah.
He jizzed into it.
So if it was your cum, that's okay. If it was Ryan's, I'm gonna be mad.
Who's Ryan?
Chad's pseudo roommate.
I'm Chad, and who are you talking about? We're talking about mixologist Owen. Oh wait, hold on. The fuck? Bring, bring. Oh my god! I just got a text from sous chef Owen / mixologist Owen. I asked him, "Hey, bro, did you come on our drinks?" And he said, "Yeah, I followed the recipe."
Okay, so great. All right. Well, it's growing on me.
Oh god, this is fucked up.
Okay,
Anyway,
so we're gonna analyze an article about this.
Analyze
an article.
Just drink talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really thought a lot about this segment, knowing what's going on in Afghanistan, knowing that India has supported a lot of people, and Pakistan has supported the Taliban. And the U.S. has its own interest. I mean, just like any Middle East conflict, it's like Mario Party 6. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's just like we're all doing mini games, and like whoever does the mini games the best, like ends up not winning.
Oh.
Unlike Mario Party 6, if you do the best in the mini game, you win.
Yeah.
But in Afghanistan, you're controlling Yoshi, and he's like running around on the snowball, and like you knock everybody else on the snowball off. Because you have like superior technique control and
the
money.
game says you lose because the U.S. made the rules.
Exactly right, and so you as Yoshi are like, whoop, whoop, wahoo! Oh wait, sorry, that's Mario. Or no, he's like, meow, 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 meow. You know, stuff like that. Like so, and it's really fucked up. But we're not gonna focus on that aspect of it. What we're focusing on is the Washington Post.
All right.
And, you know, with the Washington Post, we've covered this before. The Washington Post is, of course, Jeff Bezos' private newspaper.
Right.
Right. And whenever you have editorial standards, sometimes you can get certain people to write certain things, and sometimes you can't. And really where the Washington Post shines, because the Washington Post sort of their news articles are sometimes solid, right? Because as a requirement of doing #TheNewsTM, right? You have to have some integrity. But where the Washington Post really shines in how absolutely stupid it is the opinion section, right? Because they have the same people.
So wait, is this an editorial?
Yeah, of course, because
Okay.
the editorials are where the stupidest shit comes from.
All right.
But keep in mind, listeners at home, and of course Ian, I hope you realize that the same people that write these opinion articles, who really show their ass, who really spread their butt cheeks out for everybody to see them with their hairy, unbleached assholes, they may keep up airs. They may be the bag lady in Keeping Up Appearances, the famous BBC drama / comedy dramedy. They may do that shit. They may write articles with some integrity. But when it comes to their opinion articles, this is the real shit. This is how they really feel. You know, when people say, tell me how you really feel.
Yeah,
well,
all bets
Elaine,
are out the window.
What's that?
All bets are off.
Yeah, exactly. So Elaine Shannon, who is a pretty consistent contributor to the Washington Post in the form of articles that should be taken as like objective, like right, like all right, so this comes from a opinion, and I'm gonna fucking read this with like parentheses on it, you know. Now comes the Taliban narco state.
That's the headline?
That's the fucking headline to this shit, man. And it's from the global opinion section, which would you really trust the Washington Post to like really have a fucking good take on
I don't even know if
opinions?
Bezos took world history, you know?
Wait, probably. Did he graduate from college? I don't know.
He garnered his fortune from just being like, oh, a bookstore,
But was he
online.
educated? Was he educated?
I don't know.
We should know the enemy,
You're
you
right.
motherfucker.
Yeah,
No, let's
motherfucker.
check this out. Hey, whoa, hey, Gerald. Check that out. Gerald? Oh, he's sleeping on the couch. Fuck.
It's the guy on the couch, dude. That's all he does.
All right, whatever. All right, so Gerald's not here. I mean, he is here, but he's like not here mentally. So, let's find out. Early career. He graduated. Okay, so Jeff Bezos did graduate from college,
Okay.
but he went to the University of Florida, which is a renowned party
Hey,
school.
that's where Bert Kreischer went.
What, and has he talked about this before or no?
The University of Florida?
Yeah.
He was famous for being the biggest partier in the biggest party school in the country. They
That's
made a
what's
movie about
up,
him.
bro. That's
literally
what's up, bro.
National Lampoon's
Sick.
Van Wilder was about Bert Kreischer's life.
Really? And he's like a popular comedian.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I refuse to believe this.
That's absolutely true.
That's really cool.
I know, it's very cool.
So let's talk about this line. Now comes the Taliban narco state. Elaine Shannon. So Elaine Shannon is famous for writing 4 books. And wouldn't you know it, all 4 of those books are about how the United States came in, saw, and conquered Vini, Vici, Vidi, Beep, Beep, you know. I'm holding my shit in like a fisting pose,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm doing
as-
the Italian finger.
As a
I'm like,
natural Little Italy studio podcaster
yeah, like
would.
we have to pay homage to our fucking background.
We sure do.
And so I mean, Vini Vici Vita Bita Vici. She's saying, "Hey, it's me, Elaine Shannon. Hey, I published 4 books. Wait, hold on. I published 4. Fuck, I can't do a woman voice like as much as I want to do
I published
it.
4 books.
Hey,
I mean, it's the same thing as an Italian one, just like up a
can you
notch.
do this? Can
No,
you
I'm
take over?
terrible with accents.
The fuck? Okay. So she published these books basically about how the war on drugs is good and the drug cartels are bad and we can fight all the drug cartels by being American.
Great.
Yeah, so let me just read you
So
the
just
sort
buy
of-
more Coca-Cola and everything will be fine.
That's right, instead of water.
Yeah.
Right, if you're in Panama or Venezuela.
fuck Nestle,
yeah,
dude.
well, pick one. So, Elaine Shannon, and if anybody says I'm being anti-Semitic by saying the name Elaine Shannon, shame on you. What were you thinking?
I don't even know what that means.
Me neither. So, a former Time and Newsweek correspondent, Time, of course, being the mega corporation that brings you such great compilation tapes as 101 Love Songs featuring Lionel Richie. It's all Lionel Richie covers.
Feature Lionel Richie. I love that song. That album, rather. That album.
101 songs.
no,
and you
never
listen
mind.
to the whole album.
No. I was thinking about 69 Love Songs by the Magnetic Fields.
This fucking indie motherfucker.
It's a great
He
album.
literally thought, yeah, it's a great album, but he literally thought I was talking about that when I was talking about Lionel Richie.
My bad.
You think Lionel Richie and what's his
Would
name?
work with the Magnetic Fields 100%.
Okay, but what's the guy's name from Magnetic Fields?
I have no idea.
It's you fucking know, dude. Hey. Hey,
Gerald over there.
Oh, Owen's not here, dude. I forget our fucking production staff's name. Because I'm like so much better than them, and I'm like literally so much better than them. Because they're working for like $5 an hour.
Stephen Merritt.
Stephen Merritt, yeah, he's got that sub-bass untrained sub-bass voice.
Oh, yes.
That's so sick. I love that, and I'm definitely not reading from Wikipedia when I'm talking about this. No, okay, so, oh yeah, so what's her name? Elaine Shannon. She's written books about so much shit. Like, I mean, basically the themes of her 4 books are essentially saying all of the crimes that the United States, and she goes like regionally, right? So her first book, Desperados, Latin Drug Lords, U.S. Lawmen, and War America Can't Win, right? So this is just like the title itself is indicative of like the way that people like liberals sort of portray the drug war in South America as like intractable. They can't win it, right? It sold over 130,000 copies.
So this is the author of the article we're reading?
Yeah. Big fucking deal, right? But she's been published, and like her whole thing the fucking media belief, or I guess the popular media belief in the mainstream media, is that she's sort of an expert on terrorism.
Okay.
She's an expert on narco-terrorism specifically.
Yeah.
And this article is claiming that she has some special knowledge about the way that narco-terrorism works for the Taliban, right? So let's just read some selections from here. Foreign aid is superfluous. I'm going to back up because I don't think that's the scope is good here. But and I'm reading for her words, before the Taliban took over Afghanistan by force, the United States and the European Union warned it that doing so would result in a cutoff of foreign aid to the country. Yet the Taliban seized control anyway. Why? Because the Taliban is very rich and can afford to scoff at Western illusions of leverage. Sounding like a person who is very like damaged, like like pissed off, like how dare they fucking throw this shit back at us, right? Foreign aid is superfluous if you're just cope. This is just cope, right? This is like someone coping, right? Foreign aid is superfluous if you're running the world's largest narco state. Shut the fuck up. This is why Afghanistan under the Taliban threatens to become. What?
Okay.
The Afghan drug cartel consists of a dozen or so trafficking dynasties that built the...
Wait. Okay, so I'm sorry. I have to cut you off there. But
No,
like,
go ahead.
It sounds like out of the gate she was just assuming, or I mean, she could be right for all I know, but it's just like the tone she's taking is that like, well, this is immediately being handed over to like massive drug gangs, you know? And
Yeah,
like,
that's...
and like with the base
Right.
assumption that is their primary source of income almost, you know?
I'm so glad that you had that insight, because that is exactly what she's saying, in my opinion, and I think that's exactly what she's the point she's trying to make, right?
Because drugs are inherently bad, and people who do it are evil, and you know, and
Right,
that's
right.
That's what
So-
these people are doing, you know.
She goes on to say foreign aid is superfluous if you're running the world's largest narco state. This is what Afghanistan under the Taliban threatens to become. Why is she saying that when the Taliban has on so many occasions rejected the state of American control over Afghanistan, which has been essentially to enrich the Afghan government, the quote-unquote democratic Afghan government, and essentially flow out raw material for the both illegal and legal. Let's not forget, Purdue Pharma is in the news, of course, these days. But let's not forget, where the fuck do most opiate products come from? Because it's very hard to synthesize.
I'm pretty sure it's Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly. Because thebaine and morphine and codeine, most of that shit comes from natural sources because it's such a difficult molecule to actually have a full synthesis of.
It's because if the United States wasn't there to police their morals and how they spent their money and grew their opium, without us there to be the nanny state, they'll just be left to their own devices, and they'll just, become drug dealers and pimps and criminals. Because
that's what they say. I mean, that's what they think. But this is indicative of how imperialism works, right? It's all about controlling the source to the end, right? You want the natural resources that provide you with business interests, and then you want the markets for selling that added value product, right? Afghanistan has been that story, regardless of its connection to opiates. It's always been that story for so many people, because not only is it Afghanistan is sort of in this place that it's the communication, it's the gateway from the Caucasus to Russia, from China to the Middle East to the West. I mean, it's always been a crossing grounds, right? This is why China is so invested in Afghanistan, is because it has historically been a stop on the Silk Road.
So it's a hub.
It's a hub. It's a hub. And it's just like, this Afghanistan is like it's the Poland of the Middle East, right?
Okay.
Because so many people have tried to control it, and so many people have tried to fuck with it, but yet it still comes out on top. And whoever controls it, and this is the fucking thing that is so fucking weird to me, is because so many people try to paint Afghanistan as being independent, right? That it will defeat every empire that tries to control it. It's like Polish people try to present themselves as being this way. But first of all, the first fatal flaw in that fucking line of reasoning is that people who have tried to have economic interest in it have not always been empires, right? Russia was not an empire. China was not an empire. Iran is not an empire. But people have a vested interest in the existence of Afghanistan. That's true. Right, so we continue on. The Afghan drug cartel consists of a dozen or so trafficking dynasties that build the Afghan trade of drug industry from scratch after the Soviet military invasion of December 1979. The unspoken thing here is that the United States completely set that up. Afghan kingpins now control roughly 85% of the world's opium supply, according to the United States.
And by Afghan kingpins, they mean United States pharmaceutical lobbyists.
They don't mean that, but those people are connected, right? So, like General Dostum, right? Dostum was one of the people that got fucking disposed of by the Taliban. He's still alive, but he got disposed of. He was an Uzbek warlord, and maybe that's a loaded term, but he was a guy that fought against. He was at one time a Soviet-aligned person, but then quickly switched to the side of the Mujahideen, and then quickly moved to the side of the Taliban during the Civil War, and then quickly moved to the side of the United States. He is an opportunist.
Okay.
In the most strict sense of the term. These kingpins, people try to think about homegrown, right? They try to project the idea of a homegrown figure onto these kingpins.
Okay.
It's not that at all. Kingpins, quote unquote, according to the terms of this article, are people that are supported by various vectors of geopolitical influence, right? Dostum, as an example, who has been recently deposed, and he's still alive, so maybe we'll see in the future that he comes back, will literally sell out Afghanistan's interests for the highest price, right?
Okay.
So let's move on. So the takeaway here is that the opium supply is hinging on Afghanistan, hence why the United States spent $9 billion on supposedly restricting that supply. But if we look, and now we're getting into the supplemental part of this show, in 2001, before the U.S. invasion, once the Taliban won the civil war, the amount of opium farming dropped from 20,000 pounds per hectare. It went from just shy of 100,000.
I think I know a Hector that could do way more than 20,000 pounds.
Yeah.
He's a very hard
Well, will
worker.
you connect me with him? Because
Yeah.
I'm trying to make some money. It dropped in 2001 to almost zero.
Wow.
Yeah, because the Taliban banned all of this stuff. The Taliban is more effective than with no money,
Then
Well,
with the United States,
locally
with
raised money.
billions.
than the United States can raise with $9 billion spent.
So, the more I hear this story unfold and the more I learn about how Afghanistan operates, it sounds less and less like the Taliban are just this group of thugs that are trying to control everything.
They're not.
It sounds...
And in fact, they're seeking a peace agreement. Now, let me be very clear. Okay? I'm going on record here and I'm saying I do not agree with theocratic governments. Okay?
Fair.
I do not necessarily agree with a lot of Sunni Islam in the way that it conducts itself. I have a particular affinity for Shia Islam, so I have a side. I have a definite respect for Shia Islam,
Okay.
of which, by the way, the western part of Afghanistan is mostly Shia. But what I
Right.
can say is that I think that liberating yourself from imperialism leads to more progressive outcomes. It will always do that. The Taliban is just like the Mujahideen. Two groups out of the Mujahideen became the seed for the Taliban. Okay? And so forth, you will see a small group of the Taliban probably move towards a more progressive role. It just depends on the geopolitics of all of this stuff, right? So, 85% of the world's opium supply, we've covered this. So,
Yes.
quote, our investigations show that the Taliban were intimately interconnected with the drug traffickers in every corner of Afghanistan, said Mike Marsek, a retired senior Drug Enforcement Administration. The DEA has been lying to us from ground zero, from day one. We
Oh,
all know
duh.
this. Official who led investigations in Afghanistan and Pakistan from 2005 to 2013. They were making tens of millions of dollars a year easily, certainly for the past 15 years. In large parts of the country, he says, it was increasingly difficult to separate the Taliban from the drug traffickers. Keith Bishop, also retired, who supervised a joint DEA Afghan police base in Kabul. Now, let's focus on this. Keith Bishop, who retired, supervised a joint DEA Afghan police base in Kabul from 2009 to 2012. He says, opium, the Taliban's easy, lazy goal. The fundamentalist group also regards opium, he says, as a weapon to poison their perceived enemies at home and abroad. So in this case, it is paranoia. It is quaking in the boots of Western sources, mostly led by Afghan nationals who are aligned with the DEA, that project this idea of fear.
Okay.
But what is the reality? If we go and look, and this is a supplemental here, the Taliban has said that they don't want drugs here anymore. Now, it can be, of course, argued that their commitments to Russia and Pakistan include stimulant adjacent chemicals, because they can produce those. They have shown their capacity to produce those.
Okay.
But the main issue here is that United States journalists who have essentially invented the idea of an almost South American-esque, which, by the way, again, another product of racism, have invented an almost South American-esque commitment, just like the cocaine trade, of opium. But who really funded that shit? Who really encouraged that? And I read from VOA here. U.S. government agency reported the U.S. Congress in January that Washington has appropriated $9 billion for counter-narcotics and efforts in Afghanistan since 2002. However, the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction said that the opium economy had grown exponentially over the period, while interdiction efforts have only had a minimal impact on the illicit narcotics trade. Quote, importantly, that trade helps fund insurgents, terrorists, and criminal networks, fosters corruptions, undermines public regard for the government, and creates public health and social problems. So this is the U.S. government saying this.
Okay.
So the U.S. government saying this is a classic fascist propaganda tactic of accusing the other side of doing what you're doing.
Right.
Right. So $9 billion spent for counter narcotic efforts. We see from a lot of how that money is spent, this infrastructure that is being U.S. money is being spent on is going towards bolstering opium farms. It's going towards protecting opium farms.
Right. It's going towards protecting them for our own interests.
Yeah.
Because
Which is encouraging both, as a side product, the illegal narcotics trade, but also encouraging that pharmaceutical companies, which Purdue Pharmaceutical Company is currently in litigation and has all kinds of documentaries attacking them. Where do you think they got all those semi-synthetic sources from? I mean, shipping opium pods to the United States from these farms. We used this as a plantation. Afghanistan was in a plantation for the opium epidemic.
Yeah.
That's exactly what is going on, right? So bringing this back to unity here, to a central point, the exit of the United States and its imperial aspiration in Afghanistan hurts the pharmaceutical companies. There is no Afghani narco state. The Taliban has been very clear. As I said, in 2001, they were able to drop production by what did I say? 100,000 to 0.
Yeah.
That's a fucking big deal.
Yeah.
And now we have the Taliban coming out and saying, we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to deal with drugs. We're not going to deal specifically with opiates. They probably will still sell meth to Russia. You didn't hear from me. You didn't hear from me. You didn't hear from me. Yeah,
Hell,
probably
Arkansas
still.
could do that.
Well, yeah, and they take our gerbs.
Yeah, bro, fucking Afghanistan's taking our Kansan jobs.
Yeah, we could be making meth for them, and we could also be making amphetamines for Syria. I mean, Assad's like, "What's up, dog? You gotta shoot some fucks. You want to kill ISIS? Let's get high first, though."
Jesus.
Well, don't say Jesus. It's part of every war.
Allah. What?
Inshallah, brother.
Inshallah.
We hope that Syria prevails against the fucking ISIS people.
Yeah.
That is the official podcast position.
By the way, this is a complete aside, but I very recently finished watching Rami, which is a series on FX and Hulu. Super good.
Ooh.
It's like a great insight,
Ooh.
like for outsiders into Muslim life from a daily life perspective, and specifically from the perspective of like a Muslim American. Like his parents were like Egyptian, and they moved to America, and he like grew up like with both worlds influencing his whole life. You know, so like it's a great show. Honestly, super good. Just finished season 2. Couldn't recommend it more. It's also just like very informative because there's a whole lot of shit you don't know about if you aren't exposed to that world. You know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw an end cap on this segment and say thank you so much to the State Department for allowing me to speak on this, because I know my handler doesn't usually want me to say things like this.
It seems recently like your handlers have taken like an anarchistic approach to drug policies.
Right, because we all smoke weed together. I'm collecting about last time I checked, it changes every month, but I went from like 125K to 130K to 145K. They keep paying me more money the more weed I smoke and the more just bullshit I tell you guys. And I told him literally, no, my handler, we had a conversation recently, and he was like, hey, you guys only have like 20 regular listeners. And I was like,
that's more than zero.
It's more than zero. And you know what he did?
What?
He literally stuck his finger up my butt. All I had to do was ask.
All right, cool.
It was so sick.
I want a handler now.
You want a handle of what? Of liquor, or you want me to handle you?
Yes.
Hold on, I got here's my suspicion. I think that sous chef / mixologist Owen might be my handler in a one of those mustache glasses combos with a big nose.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You must be very unobservant.
Well, I mean, I'm observant enough to think about it like over the course of like the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, but just now did you realize that you might be handled by 2 people that are the same person?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought I was stupid.
Me too. Turns out I'm really smart, actually.
No, nice.
It's fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, I do have a PhD from Georgetown in I have an MBA, but like I remember.
I also own an NBA team. It's not that big of a deal.
I didn't say NBA. I said MBA, major in business administration.
That's what I said. Also, I also own a major in business administration.
Yeah, but have you ever been to Laurel Canyon?
That's an entirely other episode. All right, I think that's all the time we have to discuss on the topic of the news. So let's discuss the topic of the day, which is perfect pitch.
Perfect pitch, otherwise known as absolute pitch, right? Wait, hold on. I just got a text. Oh, okay. Yeah. So my handle. My friend. My buddy.
Not your boss.
Not my boss. My buddy. My buddy. Charlie Parker. Jelly Roll Morton. That's what he tells me. That's his name is.
Old Jelly Roll Morton.
Jelly Roll Morton. He's telling me. Wait, sorry. Hold on. I'm getting a text. Oh shit! I just got another text from Rick Beato. He said, "Hey Chad, I'm reading straight from my phone. Hey Chad, love it. Could you please talk about people with perfect pitch?" I think he might have. How did he get this released so early?
I had my
Are
suspicions.
you live streaming?
Yeah, I live stream every episode. This is how we do it.
Oh shit! I didn't know we were live streaming. Okay, well, so what do you know about the perfect pitch?
All I know is that I have it because I can always hear a note and tell, first of all, what note it is and how close it is to the true note that they're going for, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's relative pitch, so wrong.
Okay.
But that's fine. You know, there's a typology of this stuff, you know. There's a difference between relative pitch and absolute pitch.
Okay.
Right. So perfect pitch and absolute pitch basically mean the same thing. Or do they? So there's a lot of different meanings behind the idea of the perfect pitch.
Okay.
Right. And it seems like that musicians feel accomplished or feel qualified to instruct us to what it means in the psychiatric, psychological, and neurological perspective. Like they feel qualified to tell psychologists and just generally brain scientists what it means to have perfect pitch. So let's look at a typology of this, right? There was somebody, a researcher, I can't remember the name right now, but I have a list right here, right? So genuine absolute pitch is based on an immediate recognition of tone, right? There's type 1, universal, subtype infallible, wherein you can recognize a single tone and give it a note name for every range across all musical tones and octaves, even noises, right? So you could hear somebody honking a horn and say, yeah, that's an F sharp. I know what that is, right? And this is the fallible, right? The most instruments with half tone and octave errors, right? So you could probably hear a piano, a violin, and you know what note it is, and you might go off into the deep end and maybe get it a semitone off, right? Then there's limited, right, as to within a certain octave, within a certain timbre, right? So if you have a certain instrument that you play, you know what the notes are, or this may be both, right? You can get it close within a semitone worth of error to like a violin. And or a piano, you can say that's a C4, it's a C5, or that's a F sharp 4, F sharp 5, whatever. And then there's borderline, right, where you're deviating at least a whole tone, or within a whole tone, right? So you're like saying that's an A, or that's a B. Well, maybe it's a C, or maybe it's a C or a B, depending on the octave, right?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. Most of that was a little technical, and I followed at least half of it.
And he's a better musician than me, so that really tells you what's going on here. But the whole point of this is that there is a history of absolute pitch and relative pitch being pushed and pulled over the course of literature since the 50s, right? And there's this whole idea that people who study music, the goal, at least in Western music, is to have absolute pitch, right? To have absolute tone. They have to be able to name apropos of nothing, decontextualize. They have to be able to hear a tone, a certain frequency, and be like, yeah, that's an A, or yeah, that's a B sharp, right? And pick out notes based on what they're hearing.
Uh-huh.
Versus relative pitch, which is the idea that if somebody plays you a tone, you know the relationships between half tone, semitone, or a tone, or you're able to pick out like chords, right? So like there's the natural bass note, and then there's the 3, and there's the 5th, the 7th, and so on and so on.
I'm sure you also have to like know the difference between Tony and Tony and Tony, you know?
And tone.
Tone.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to know all those guys. You have to introduce yourself to them and pass the test to make them trust you.
Yeah.
But perfect pitch is a very emotional, racial, and class distinction. A lot of people don't think about this, but
How?
I'm so glad you asked because perfect pitch, absolute pitch versus relative pitch has a mythology to it, right? If you, the listener, go and look up absolute pitch, there's a guy, was it Charlie Pugh or P? What tone is that? P? People, it's kind of like all those people that say like, I have hazel eyes. My emotion determines the color of my eyes. It's like people trying to be special, I guess. But it's also, there's a scientific aspect to it as well, which has been the subject of interest for a lot of psychologists, for a lot of neurologists, because there's a particular part of your brain, what is it, the left
Hemisphere?
That's part of it, because we'll get into it, but there's a region of the brain called the Wernicke's area, right?
Okay.
That is associated with speaking language, right? It's not necessarily associated with the phonemes, right? It's more associated with, sorry, I had that backwards. It's less associated with grammar and like temporal stuff, and more associated with the pitch of things and sounds. And so a lot of people have taken that and run with it, and they'll say that language has an effect on your ability to understand music. Just like any neurological thing, it inspires a lot of vulgar understanding of that type of thing, right? Once it gets published for the public to hear, and I have a lot of thoughts about this, about why neurology and neuroscience is such a backward science, right? We're still using methods, and I know this because I was involved in undergraduate research when I was getting my degree with technology that has been around since the 1920s, right?
Okay.
When I was doing research with armadillos and rats and stuff like that, I had about 4 sources that I could draw on to compare the data that I collected during my research over the course of 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so this neurology is a very backward science, but it's also a very complicated science, which is a perfect storm for public misunderstanding.
Backwards as in, like, we just haven't figured anything out yet?
No, backwards is in the methods don't get updated.
Okay.
Right? So, to this day, one of the most commonly used techniques in neuroscience research is recording electrical signals by graphite electrodes.
Okay.
Now, there have been lots of permutations of this technique that are more chemically specific, but when it comes to sound, specifically auditory senses, we still rely on ideas that were prevalent in the 1920s, that there is what they call aerial designations in the brain, which is just a reference to, literally, if you slice up the brain, there are areas in your brain which correspond to different frequencies, right? But then with the human brain, it's still so much in the Dark Ages because they believe in the literature that there are certain physiological and aerial correlations. So the Wernicke's area is something that was established many, many decades ago that shows that certain people can only speak because their brain is activated in an area that is close to the temporal lobe and the auditory cortex, right? The brain is multi-layered and it has a lot of connections to it. And there's even research to suggest that people with perfect pitch have one area in one hemisphere of their brain overexpressed and one hemisphere of the same type of area in the other hemisphere of their brain is underexpressed, right? Because the brain is a mirror.
Yeah.
And
so that's their okay. It's like their way of saying that like the bullies are only making fun of you because they're jealous. You know, like these people are excelling in one part of their brain, but they're like deficient in another part of their brain.
I don't know if that's the case because a lot of this research is contradictory, which complicates the idea of absolute pitch because so many neurologists and psychologists are interested in absolute pitch, but so many musicians present themselves as experts on this stuff. Like, so Rick Beato got famous, and this maybe is a non sequitur, but I think it adds context to what I'm trying to say here.
Okay.
Rick Beato got famous because his son has what he claims is perfect pitch.
Okay.
Because he's a music producer that got famous before his YouTube career, got famous by editing and recording certain things that are in the butt rock canon, right? he produced multiple Shinedown albums.
Okay. All
right. So like a lot of early 2000s post grunge shit he was involved with.
I mean, at least it was commercially successful in its time.
I guess. Shinedown. Commercial success with Shinedown kind of. I'm a little bit on the fence with that. You know, like, yeah, was it on the radio? Yeah. Did we hear it? Yeah. But was it commercially successful in sales of albums? Maybe not.
Was it a thing that you were excited to see on a festival lineup? Not really.
Most people weren't.
Yeah.
And how does that work? That's the thing for another podcast. But Rick Beato made a career in 2015 by essentially exploiting his own son by doing this experiment where he showed that his kid had perfect pitch. So perfect pitch is a very complicated idea. As I read earlier, the typology of it is complicated, right? But the thing that I'm most interested in as a chemist, as a person who's interested in medicinal chemistry, is the idea that chemicals, small molecule chemicals, not biologics, can have quality structural activity relationships that can modify the way that we interact. And there was a 2014 article that I think is immensely interesting that can sort of explain both the history leading up to this idea and explain what we're looking at in the future.
Okay.
Right? Because now that we know that relative pitch is something different than absolute pitch, right? Because relative pitch is the ability to pick out a tone and understand the relationships within it.
Okay.
Right? So if you hear a C and you don't know it's a C, and somebody says, play the natural, the third, and the fifth. This is a typical chord.
Right.
Right? They don't have to say the note. You just know the shaping. You just know the separation, right? The pattern, the math behind it. But people with absolute pitch, supposedly, can hear a chord or hear a note, and they should be able to pick it out immediately, what the bass note is.
Right.
Right? So,
That's me. That's why I said I have that.
You don't have that shit.
I absolutely do.
You do not.
100%.
God, I wish we could test this. No. Oh, wait. What the fuck? Is that a guitar?
Yes, that is a guitar. I will look away, and you can play a chord on the guitar.
This is an illustration of why this is such a complicated issue.
All right, so play a note, and I'll tell you what it is. Or play a chord.
Yeah, I'll play a chord.
Play a chord. That's a G.
This motherfucker. Okay, but check this out. Check this out. What note is this?
A.
Kind of right. What is this?
That's also an A.
Wrong.
No, wait. It's an E.
What is this? Oh, sorry, that was fucked up. What is this?
I honestly have no idea. This,
Oh,
I can pick out chords,
because it's contextual. Because pitch recognition is fucking contextual.
it is, though.
Right. So, what if I told you there's a drug that you could take that would make you recognize pitch
Really?
within 2 weeks?
What? Within 2 weeks. That's weirdly specific.
Well, that was the experimental design, so we have to follow that.
Okay.
So there was a 2014 study. This article was a huge deal because it confirms every myth that we have that you can just take a pill and it will do things for you, right? But there's a lot that goes into this, right? Because of the language that the headline goes into, right? So the title of this is Valparate Reopens Critical Period Learning of Absolute Pitch.
Okay.
So the idea is that, and this is an idea that fucking Rick Beato holds true. That is not true. And he has a whole video about this, I think that was released like four years ago, saying that only children are able to learn absolute pitch, and that children are more, and this is the famous Suzuki method, the Yamaha method, which has its own Classist sort of implications to it, because the Suzuki method purports that every child can learn music theory given enough practice early on, and that will turn them into upstanding moral citizens.
Is that why there's like all these like child concerts in
East Asia?
In Korea and
Classic, yeah, and
Yeah.
North Korea. Just say it. Just
Yeah,
say
North Korea is what I was-
Just say North Korea.
that's what I meant.
Fuck you. First of all,
Okay.
First
All right.
of all, yeah, that is the reason. Second of all, fuck you. That's a racist.
How is it racist to like just notice that like they really like showcasing their like talented children?
Because since the 50s, there has been a history in the scientific literature about absolute pitch that has proven, and I say this in loose quotes, that people who speak... No, let me go backwards. People from East Asian descent are supposedly better at music.
Okay.
Right? The idea is that because so many East Asian languages are tonal, that gives them a leg up in understanding.
Oh, so it's like a misunderstanding of the way language works.
Right, because, well, it's not a misunderstanding. I mean, the hypothesis has a pretty solid neurological foundation, but the conclusion is lacking nuance, right? Because Wernicke's area is both similarly connected both to language and auditory processing and understanding pitch. But and so many studies have tried to explain that East Asian descending people are better at music. But if we actually look at the experimental design of all these things, these studies are selecting almost exclusively East Asian, sorry, not even East Asian, actually selecting Asian descent without specific specificity. So they're picking people of non-specific Asian descent, right? Whether or not these people speak tonal languages, and comparing them to quote unquote Caucasians. Oh, it's just white people, but
Yeah.
Caucasians is obviously misleading. But that's a fucking racial category that is imposed by the United States legal code. But anyway, so the idea is that people who are responding to the original study, which I think was conducted in the 70s, were people from U.S. music schools, right? Berkeley, okay, Juilliard. What's the one in Tennessee? Is it in Tennessee? It's the one in Tennessee.
Nashville?
Yeah, no, it's some fucking shit. It's like East fuck me up, daddy. Something like that. I don't know. But
I love that town. Favorite vacation spot.
They basically took a small sample size of musically talented people and showed that people that were of Asian descent, without regard to the tonal language, which is the claim that they make in this paper, that they're better at recognizing tone, right?
So,
they're more likely to produce absolute pitch. And
what did the results say?
The results said that it was about like 90% of their sample size were their sample size of East Asian had absolute pitch, and 70% of non-Asian descent had absolute pitch.
Okay.
So they went on to describe further studies where they were trying to correlate in like additional parametric statistical methods how first of all, and their sample size was incredibly small. It was sub 100. So we already know that this is a bad way to understand shit. And you're picking the most musically talented people from the entire fucking...
Like, even in high school, you couldn't do a paper on a thing that involves human subjects unless you had at least 50. And that's for a fucking high school paper.
Right. And this is... Well, and there... I'm sure, and I haven't actually read the explanation of their sampling from this paper, but... God, I wish I could give you guys the fucking... citation for this, but the idea was that they were picking people that were musically talented.
Yeah.
But then they turned around and as the studies progressed on this stuff, it became clear that Asian languages are not the definitive thing. And the claim that tonal languages are associated with East Asian descent is a fucking problematic category, right? Because there's the idea that certain people are more fluent than others. And so further on, studies showed that people who are more fluent in tonal languages had more correlation with absolute pitch, which seems like it would be in the to the confirmation of this claim. But what they later found out is that sorry, I'm fucking blanking, so we're gonna have to edit this out. What they found is that it doesn't actually matter if you're of East Asian descent or if you speak a tonal language. It turns out that a lot of people who are speaking tonal languages statistically significantly are better, but only by a small margin. Okay, so we're talking about 90% versus like 70% of the sample size. And 70% of this, so that's a difference of 20%. And that sample size didn't include people who are speaking tonal languages or not. It was just
just people of that descent,
of Asian descent, right?
So it seems like it's even counter to the
right
claims
so
of the study.
In further on studies, they went to try to find out if tonal languages were associated with this, and what they found is that fluency is a big part of it. Okay. Right? So if you were more fluent in a tonal language, you had more successes being someone with absolute pitch.
So
right?
the hypothesis was actually correct.
Or was it? So the turn here, or the thing here, is that what they found out is that when they did a cross parametrical statistical analysis, right? Because it's easy to correlate X versus Y, right? So you have one statistical parameter, another statistical parameter. It significantly complicates things when you have multi-parametric statistics, and your hypothesis becomes way less credible or way less probable to prove when you have other parameters being thrown into this. So one of those parameters was the idea of musical training. So what they actually showed is that people who had more musical training that were Caucasian,
okay,
had more ability to be pitch perfect than East Asian, regardless of tonality of their language, that had less musical training.
Okay.
So there was all of this sort of thing. And not only that, but there's also an aspect of all of these studies prior to the 90s were conducted using instrumentation, right? It was analog. The difference between what they call pure tone and like instrumentation, right? So people learn better through touching instruments. Mm-hmm. They learn better from hearing the harmonic qualities of a certain instrument, right? Because again, relative pitch, as we've established, is much easier to learn, right? So in the quest for absolute pitch, we can't actually find absolute pitch without a pure tone, which leads us to a 2014 study, which I think is sort of the apex of all of the literature hitherto that explains this stuff, right?
Okay.
And the most interesting thing about this to me as a chemist, as someone who believes that biologics are sort of a fad and that small molecule, and maybe I'm old-fashioned for this, and maybe that I believe in rational drug design too much, and maybe I am speaking to biochemistry, neurology, and all of these sort of complicated sciences that are sort of limited by their own scope to be relegated to a backwater position because of how complicated they are and how simple chemistry is. This, to me, is a big fucking deal. The name of this article, the title of this article is Valparate Reopens Critical Period Learning of Absolute Pitch. So just to remind everybody, this guy that fucking basically grifted the fuck out of everybody, Rick Beato, by posting, he made his YouTube career, in addition to his recording career, which previously existed, by posting a video of his kid just doing a supposedly pitch perfect renditions, right? He played a tone. His kid did it within 3 seconds, right? Rick Beato who claims in so many of his videos, aside from that only children can learn absolute pitch. Only children can learn absolute pitch, and there's no hope for you as an adult. But we know that the brain is plastic, right? Plasticity does not just go away. Neurogenesis occurs way often into adulthood, right? And there's pharmacological implications of that, but also environmental implications of that. And he so many times in his video cites statistics about why absolute pitch is special. And this is sort of the grift of this stuff. This is the class character of this stuff, is that it's the same people that are saying that they're pitch perfect that are also saying they're classically trained.
So it's like the only people that could ever aspire to be pitch perfect are the people whose parents can afford to train them at a very young age.
Right. And whose parents can afford a huge studio like Rick Beato, who are college educated in the fucking halls of music prestige. Berkeley, Juilliard, whatever that Tennessee University is that nobody cares about because it's all about Berkeley and Juilliard. But the idea is that, I mean, think about this. Ketamine is being used to this day as newly. This is a novel idea, is that aryl cyclohexamines can hijack your brain and kickstart new learning, right? It can teach you to get out of learned helplessness, to pick yourself up from depression. And it's not just the drug, right? Like I said, though, my bias is towards pharmacology. You're doing that for yourself. When you go get ketamine augmented treatment, resistant depression treatment, you have somebody doing the same psychotherapy that you would get anywhere else.
Okay.
It's just augmented by this stuff. But it's the idea that you can learn late in life with the augmentation of pharmaceuticals that is so compelling to me. So with this, I want to turn to this study that has gotten so much press. It's been written about like science press always writes about things. If you eat peanut butter, it'll cure prostate cancer. Red wine, fucking put red wine up your nose. It'll make you live till you're fucking 90. I get that. This was a big article. It was published in Frontiers in Systems Neuroscience, which is a particularly sexy journal. It is a sexy journal. So, of course, it got fucking published in, fucking, I fucking love science or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, that was who was ruling the day back in 2013, 14. But, or Vice. I mean, Vice wrote about it, I'm pretty sure. But I just want to share specifically the findings of this and a little bit of background. And we're gonna do this about 4 minutes, the background. So, valproic acid, or as its conjugate base salt form for my chemists out there, valproate, right, is an anticonvulsant primarily, but also a treatment for schizophrenia, a treatment for bipolar disorder. And the way that it works is essentially alters some of the ion channels in your brain, and it also modulates the inhibition of certain neurological pathways. But the real interesting thing about this is that it's a histone deacetylase inhibitor. So it in that way, it sort of, in your cells, as we speak right now, there is sort of a switch. It's like turning a dial, and those dials are histones, right? And they're stopped by acetylation, right? It's kind of like putting extra pieces of metal on a valve. It increases the lever arm so you can turn it faster, right? The acetylation of histones are what opens up DNA to be transferred, the information contained therein transferred faster. So a deacetylase inhibitor is essentially inhibiting the off sequence of that valve. And they call them HDAC inhibitors. And what's interesting about this is that this is a process that happens very early in your life when your cells are all trying to sort of get in sync with each other and build a new system. It doesn't happen so much later in life, right? It can happen from zygote to adolescence, and then it sort of stops. But valproic acid has a very interesting specificity, and in animal models, it enables adult mice to establish perceptual preferences that are otherwise impossible to acquire after youth, right? So children are able to acquire language. They're able
So you're
to...
saying there's drugs out there that will like replasticize your brain.
Right, and valproate has been identified as one, but for no particular benefit that we've been able to establish previous to 2013-14. But this article took a gamble on this and noticed that this particular brain or this particular chemical was associated with targeting the brain, which most HDAC inhibitors are sort of a bull in a china shop. It's just everything, every cell. But valproate has the unique privilege of passing through the blood-brain barrier very well, because it's related to so many important pharmaceuticals and chemicals that are both in your gut and your brain, right? Okay. Valproic acid is just like valeric acid, which is found in valerian root. It has a structure that your body naturally produces in your gut and in your brain. So it is uniquely adapted functionally in its chemical structure to be possible to go into your brain. And so what this study found is that there's a significant increase in after 2 weeks of treatment if you take this drug to teach people absolute perception. And going back to the typology of absolute perception.
Absolute pitch?
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking in GURPS terms because I'm a GM. Absolute pitch, yeah. The design of this study, essentially, because they used a differentiation between pure tone, a synthesized tone, and timbre of an instrument, and they used a sort of boundary between semitone errors to establish their data set, and across, because they used a pure tone, it invalidated the idea that you have to have sensory motor connection to the thing that you're playing if you want to develop absolute pitch. They showed that they could reliably pick pure tones given names of these tones. And they specifically, against all previous studies, picked people who were musically naive.
With like no training?
No training. Because as we know from these tonal language studies, we know that people, that tonal languages have no bearing on your ability to have absolute pitch perception, and that musical training and fluency in things that are related to that are the things that make it what it is. They were able to train people significantly across a multi-parametric study that even accounted for the cognitive benefits of valproic acid. They screened their study against that.
Okay.
Now, the important part of this is that the experimental design had a first and second phase. They showed that you get diminishing returns over time, right? It's the initial ramp up that they showed from valproic acid versus the cognitive enhancement of their sample set, which may or may not have included people who are mentally disturbed. But they screened it out using mania, a self-reporting mania like panel. So what they're basically concluding is that the benefit to valproic acid is separate from its psychologically correcting parameters, and that is significantly different than if you had not taken it. But that extended practice under this chemical has no effect on your continued success.
Okay.
So the idea is that there is a quick spike, a quick response, dosage response, to where you can learn absolute pitch as an adult. And this was a landmark study that eventually was cited in 2019 by another study that successfully taught 2 out of 6 people absolute pitch using the same experimental design without valproate. And it taught, what was it? I think it's 12 out of 140 people absolute pitch without all this stuff. But all of these studies have all relied on a very problematic sense of what absolute pitch is, right? Because absolute pitch is, for all intents and purposes, or whatever the fucking, I don't know how to say, I'm not the fucking Chicago Book of Style, but it's all using pure tones, right? But imagine yourself playing music, right, with your friends or in a band. Why do they call it a key?
I don't know.
A key of E.
I do not know.
Okay, well, think about this. I mean, what is a big I, little I, little IV, big VI chord progression?
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's the...
And does it not sound the same between a scale of C major, a scale of E minor? It sounds the same to me.
I don't know scales, personally.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you're a better musician than me, and you don't know scales, so that makes me
I'm a better guitarist. There's a difference between being an instrumentalist and a musician, you know?
The idea here in my mind is that absolute pitch is almost entirely a marketing ploy.
Okay.
Right. To the listeners, I would suggest go search on the YouTube app absolute pitch. There's one guy who will come up who has been on Jimmy Fallon, who's been on so many different productions. That's like, I have absolute pitch. Tell me. It's almost like those people that have, the memory palace, right? The memory palace, the idea of the memory palace, where, or memorizing digits of pi based on repetition, based on patterns, right? Because people who have absolute pitch, yeah, you can play a note for them, and they'll say, yeah, that's what that is. This is a C sharp. This is a G sharp. You play it for them. But what does that do for them? That doesn't do anything, right? And all of these sort of cultural and racial and class-based categorization of all of these things all point to this sort of celebration, this veneration of a unique skill that is, by all accounts in the literature, unattested to. It's so complicated and so wrapped up in so many parameters and so many conditions that we can't actually agree to a certain definition for it. But what we can agree to is when we play music with everybody, like when people play music with each other, we have a certain language that we fall back on. And those people that are special are only special on the basis of their own categorization. And the fact that so many musicians try to play the philosopher, play the psychologist, play the neurologist, just shows you the ego of the musician, right? Because music is not about the individual's ability, their performance, and absolute pitch is essentially, like I said before, people who are like,
I mean, pitch is relative, you know.
Pitch is relative, and people with absolute pitch are like, my eyes are hazel. When I'm happy, they're brown. When I'm sad, they're green.
As much as I agree with most to everything of what you're saying, it all does sound like the ramblings of somebody who doesn't know as much about music as the next guy and is bitter about it.
What does that mean?
Exactly
Rephrase
what
that.
I said.
Rephrase that. No. Explore that.
I mean, you know, it just sounds like you're just mad that some people know about absolute pitch and you don't.
Oh, I'm mad about that. Again, I want to just say the musicians who are completely unqualified, who claim that they have this ability, monetize it.
Okay.
They project the findings of science, neurology, and
like
psychology.
hell. Not that I'm, like, as you're saying all this to me, I'm thinking to myself, like, fucking, I'll read a book. I'll market myself as absolute pitch. I don't give two shits. I could figure that shit out, and I could learn how to fake it. You know?
So that erodes the credibility of their position and not mine.
Right.
Because I'm committed to admitting, first of all, I don't have absolute pitch. I barely have relative pitch. I'm only relaying to you what is in the discourse.
Yeah.
And this is in the discourse, if you will. Which is why today, folks, we are sponsored by Baby Bell Cheese, wrapped in wax for your pleasure. Today's episode is sponsored by Hamburger Helper, helping you ham your burger in those private moments, in those clean and dirty moments, in those moments when you can't feed yourself, but you can feed your kids. Those moments where a red-nosed, white-gloved entity comes to you in the night and says, I love you. Nobody else loves you. Hamburger Helper, for all of your lonely times and your not so alone times.
I feel like you've really tapped into the core of what marketing is. Hey, great job.
Well, I'm getting paid for it. Hey, this goes out to my boys at Langley. Thank you for providing me with a platform. Thanks for paying our hosting costs. We love you. You're definitely not part of the State Department. So let's get to the mailbag.
So I do
You
know
want to
that.
run it or you want me to run it?
Well, I'll at least introduce it. All I know is that we for sure have one specific. We had one person reach out to us with a specific complaint, and I would like you to belay that.
Apology of the week. No, I'm just kidding.
Apology of the week.
No, yeah, that's a different podcast. One I'm not associated with. So this comes from on Twitter at badgirldandan69. Thanks for finishing your username with 69.
Thanks for listening. Also.
So badgirldandan69 says, so is there a version of the latest This Course Pod episode without all the interruption star? Because I was genuinely interested in learning about the politics of Scooby-Doo. And to that I say, Bobby Kennedy is like long dead. So, but you know, if you want the Snyder cut, is that what they say? The nerds. If you want the Snyder cut, come on the podcast. We'll redo it for real. I mean, that's what we told. We had Jamie, our Grant,
Yeah.
Jamie, our Grant,
Yes.
our Grant Jamie. Yeah, one of these days we'll re-record it with him. I mean, y'all all saw on the podcast Twitter we had a soy face Caleb Mopon apologizing for fucking up the Grant episode. So yeah, that's one of the things that if you subscribe to our soon to be coming Patreon, you can get.
Also, to this particular complaint, I just wanted to say, thanks for listening. Honestly, I really, I'm just glad you have heard enough of it to be able to complain about a specific element.
Yeah, that is nice.
And
yeah.
Also, we're trying. We're gonna get there.
Yeah, we really do appreciate you, and don't take this the wrong way. Big ups, big love.
Yeah.
So, are we gonna do some more mailbag?
So what's the next letter in the mailbag?
Yeah. Let's check the email here. I'm gonna have to edit this shit. Google workspace. Okay. Next question from the mailbag, and this comes from us from Will Wheaton Forever 24 at gmail.com. Shit, I probably shouldn't say their email address, should I?
So just say Will or whatever.
Yeah, Will Wheaton. It's not the real Will Wheaton. It's someone who has a very weird connection to that, like a weird parasocial relationship with Will Wheaton, which is very strange to me. It's like stop watching Star Trek, folks. I mean, for real. God damn it. So they ask, dear Discourse. So me and my partner have been getting really into poppers, but we keep getting it from the sex shop down the road. And it's always sketchy, you know. It says shit like steel bars or jungle pussy or fucking gasoline huff and shit like that, or not huff. It's like gasoline bars, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Where's the cracker? You know. So I'm just wondering, you know, I was sniffing this shit and I was like, whoo. And this is my best approximation of what they're actually writing in the email, but and he's asking, he goes on to say, can poppers affect hearing? You know, I'm starting to hear very low volumes every time my partner tops me. And what do we say? I mean, do you think it affects your hearing or no?
Probably.
Okay, well, he obviously, as a fake gay, does not know shit about shit. So, no, poppers should not be affecting your hearing, in my opinion.
I've never done poppers. That doesn't make me a fake
Are you
gay.
for real?
That just makes you a gatekeeper.
No, that makes you.
Well, it makes you a
very
gatekeeper.
fake gay. Honestly, poppers should not be affecting your hearing like that. And if you're getting poppers from the sex store, you're probably getting bad poppers. So I've done a range of them. You know, I've done tert-butyl nitrite. I've done isopropyl nitrite. I've done amyl nitrite. I've done just regular amyl nitrite. And most of them are pretty equivalent. I mean, it's different in length, how long it lasts. But if you're getting bad blood pressure stuff where you're sort of, because you know, nitrites, what they'll do is they'll lower your blood pressure because they're vasodilators, and then your blood vessels will snap back. So if it concentrates the blood, of course you're gonna get that the blood flowing through your eardrums is gonna be constricted if you have bad stuff, right? Because normal nitrites, if they're unadulterated, they're completely pure, you'll just come back down like a feather, back to reality, it'll be fine. But if you are getting that vasoconstriction immediately following the vasodilation, that's because of nitrates, because of nitrate impurities in your product. So my recommendation to you is to stop buying poppers from your local sex store, okay?
Your local sex
This
stuff.
fucked up. Don't do that shit. Come to me. Come to Papa Chad. Really, though. I will. I got you.
Papa Chad makes his own poppers.
I do not do that, but I know somebody who does.
So I think we can end on that note. But buy Papa Chad's poppers.
Papa Chad's poppers. There, mine. I just
Follow us on Twitter at ThisCoursePod.
send us emails
At ThisCoursePodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, get in the mailbag, baby.
Yep.
Let's go.
Contact us. Tell us we suck. Tell us we're awesome. Either way,
Yeah.
just say hi, you know?
Hey, be looking out. Next episode, I think we're gonna be covering
A special guest
special guests.
with our love and admiration.
Yeah, we're talking about Bradford pears, and we got someone from history coming to hang out with us.
We sure do.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace out. See ya.